Oh, we're live.
Yay!
Hi. I almost turned the volume up as if like we could hear other people, but as long as people can hear us.
Should I grab my phone and join it so that we can see the comments from here?
Sure.
In case there are questions?
Yeah.
There.
My glasses aren't going to be super glasses.
Yeah, I definitely can't see that from here. Yeah, no.
Hi, everyone. We are here with Kalyn from
Hello.
HausWitch. Sorry, I just ran right into you. This reminds me of like the sports in gym class.
Oh, the rolly.
The rolly things,
yes.
Yeah.
I don't even know what you guys are
Dangerous.
talking
They were
about.
like
they sat on the floor like a little square and you would
You
like
had to put
scoot
your-
around on your butt.
You never did this?
It was dangerous.
I'll send you a picture later.
Okay.
Are
I'm out of the loop here.
you going to join it?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Kalyn, do you want to talk a little bit about yourself and HausWitch?
Sure. So I'm Kalyn. We always give our astrology and intros here at HausWitch. So if you're into astrology, Taurus Sun, Aquarius Moon, Libra Rising. But I'm one of the aura photographers here at HausWitch. And HausWitch, if you don't know us, we're located in Salem, Massachusetts, Witch City. And we are a witch shop. We are a queer-owned, feminist witch shop. So we really come at witchcraft and the witch trials from a lens of how the identity of the witch really speaks to the outcasts of society and standing up for people on the fringes of society. So we really make a point of carrying a lot of products from independent makers, queer makers, people of color, people who historically have been on the fringes of society and would have been considered witches, whether they identified with that word or not themselves. So that's the gist of HausWitch.
Should we do a little show?
Oh yeah,
it's
also
the most
pan
beautiful.
around.
So
It is a
cool.
gorgeous store.
Okay, so this, I'm like, as I stand in front of it. Okay, this is the entrance.
Gorgeous little entrance. We have our aura photo booth here. Her name is Dolores. Everything here has a name.
Okay.
So the photo booth is Dolores. Our camera is Prismatica. We have Dolly over here.
Oh my God,
She's
everything really does
beautiful,
have a
but
name.
little top heavy. And then we have all of our beautiful goods from all of our beautiful makers. There's a gorgeous art installation up over the mantle right now from Frances Denny. So we rotate our little art installations with different artists throughout the year. And we're always getting awesome new products. And we do aura photography every day.
Which is why we're here.
Today.
Will you also talk about the ghost? The ghost's name Purple.
Yes, so we do have a store spirit in the store. We just call her Purple because she has a purple energy to her, and that's really mostly what we know.
Right now.
As do I right now. I'm a big fan of purple energy in general. I usually have a little bit of purple hanging out in my aura. So she's like our resident ghost. She's a friendly ghost or a friendly spirit. We don't even really know that she's a ghost necessarily. She was maybe never really a person here on Earth. But there is a spirit that lurks. And then we think we have some like shifting ghosts as well that come and go. You know, we're in Salem. Exactly. Things pass through, things come on by. We have an office space across the street too, and we think we have a ghost cat in there. There's a ghost that hangs out low and sort of you see out of the corner of your eye. So we think it's a little cat ghost that hangs out there. Very cute, very friendly. Exactly. Pet friendly office. Oh, I should say the store is also very pet friendly. So if you have dogs that are well behaved and you ever want to come in, feel free, bring them in. You can even get aura photographed with your little peppers. Again, if they are well behaved and can sit relatively still for you, we can do that. And I do love doing pet auras as well with people and their pets.
Is it easy to differentiate between the aura of the pet and the person when you're all kind of like right there?
Not really. It's going to be sort of like it would be, and we'll get into this more when we look at your photo together, but when you photograph with someone else, it's going to be less like a picture of your two independent energies and more like a picture of the energy of your bond with that other person. Because our energy shifts when we're together. So
because we've done it. Have we ever done it together?
No, never.
I was asking. I'm really excited to see yours together.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to see their bond, the energy of their bond today. But we have been doing aura photography for I think a little over a year now here. I could be totally off on that. Time like doesn't exist to me, but I'm pretty sure it's been about a year that we've been doing it, a little over a year now. And it's so fun, and everyone's auras are different. There are no bad auras, so don't be scared to come in and get your aura taken.
Yeah.
I always tell people
it's not like black, like you're gonna die in 7 days.
Exactly,
sort of thing.
exactly. And we'll talk more about it too when we're looking at the photos, but really I like to emphasize for people that this kind of reading, an aura reading, isn't necessarily predictive. Like a tarot reading can be sometimes. What we're really looking at is a snapshot of your energy right now as it exists.
Yeah.
So I really see the value as less like, oh, what do I need to do? Where am I supposed to be going? And more as, ooh, look at this reflection of where I'm at energetically currently.
Yeah.
And seeing that reflected back to us, I think is such a beautiful thing. Because I think a lot of us don't always have the most accurate, positive perception of who we are. We can focus on our more negative qualities sometimes.
Yeah.
So to have someone like me who, in this case, I sort of know you guys, but to have someone who's a relative stranger sort of be able to look at this and say like, oh, I see a lot of growth or empathy or whatever it may be.
Well, it's like when we brought Jerry and Sierra, our friends, in, and the reading you did for them was like just so spot on.
And you've never met them.
You've never met them. It made Jerry cry because it hit home.
People cry all the time.
And me and Sabrina were like whispering outside. We're like, we're so glad we brought them to do this.
Yes, I'm so glad you did.
It is a little therapeutic in a way too.
Yeah, I always say that with aura photography, with tarot readings, like it's not therapy, but it definitely can feel therapeutic because I really do think none of us really get enough time where someone is really focusing their attention on us and reflecting ourselves back to us. And so just to have that experience, I think is really moving for a lot of people beyond
and looking
even the aura.
beyond just what is front facing. It's like truly looking inward.
Yes.
Someone which is really magical.
It is. I was listening to an interview with Christina Lonsdale, who we'll talk more about later too. She wrote the Bible on aura photography basically, but she was talking about how it's beautiful because it's like a filter that we don't get to choose. And she was talking about that in the context of sort of how it can make us be honest with ourselves, where, if we want to be an empathetic person and that's not necessarily showing up in our aura, how can we sort of move towards our values a bit more? But I also think what it does almost even more than that is that it can emphasize beautiful parts of us that we wouldn't have noticed or thought to emphasize if we were applying our own filter.
You make me want to cry right now. Just the way that you talk about it too is so beautiful.
I think auras are the most beautiful thing in the world.
Can you talk about you real quick? Because
sure, yeah.
You do color magic and
yes.
Is that thunder?
No, there is a train that I don't know if it goes under or over, but there are rumblings that happen. Yes, there are rumblings. They are not spiritual rumblings as far as I know.
I was like, oh God, the world is opening around us.
Like thunder. I was gonna say something and I forgot.
Color
magic. I put Kalyn's Instagram in the description of this episode or of the live stream, and also on our Instagram where we tagged everything. So if you want to find her. Yeah,
I'm Kaleidoscope Ritual on Instagram. And I really focus on color magic. I've been a practicing witch for over a decade now, practicing tarot reader for over a decade. And I also love color. And so beyond aura photography, which obviously has a lot to do with color and the frequencies of that, you can weave color magic into a lot of different practices. You've probably heard of candle magic, where people will use certain colors of candles for certain intentions. You can do the same thing with your clothing, colors that you're putting in your hair. The idea that colors have their own energies and we can really mindfully and intentionally work with those and incorporate those into our lives to either amplify certain things we're already feeling, to balance out things we're feeling that maybe don't feel so good, or just as a tool for self-discovery. I think it's great for shifting our reality, but I think it's also a great way to explore ourselves because color is kind of inherently a little more neutral, where if we're saying words like aggression, most of us can have kind of an immediate feeling that the word aggression can bring up. Yeah. Whereas the color red may have a visceral effect for some people, but it may be easier to ease them into this idea of ooh, we're feeling a very strong, intense red energy than to just say to someone, we're feeling aggressive.
It is therapeutic. Again, it's
absolutely
making things digestible and look at yourself.
Yeah. So I think it helps us.
It's making me so curious too, because I'm going through a tough time, which I think other people can probably understand why. I have a newborn and things weren't perfect. But I came in and I was like, oh, my aura is definitely not going to be what it was before, which was purple and blue. And you were like, oh, maybe it will have some red because I'm so hyper anxious. And I am so curious when I get it done if it will show that and if it will confirm like how I'm feeling. And if not, I guess like what does that mean? Like when we are at odds with how we feel like we are showing up and versus what the aura shows.
Yeah. So the most common things I've experienced is people either really resonate where they are like, yeah, like what you're describing is dead on to like the emotional space I'm in, or the flip side of that is not so much people saying outright like, that doesn't make sense to me. But what I will hear quite a bit is people saying, oh, see, I feel like I'm really naturally not good at that thing or not sort of naturally that way, but I've really been working hard on trying to be better at it. And in that way, I actually think we get more affirmation too, because yes, you have been working really hard at it and it's showing up in your energy.
So cool.
So even if we've kind of been selling ourselves short and we have this old story playing for ourselves, I'm bad at this thing. I'm not this way. I'm not that kind of person. And even if we're trying to shift that old story can be so loud that we can't really perceive the growth and the change that we actually are experiencing energetically. And that's when I think, an aura photo can be awesome to say like, like actually that growth is happening or that healing is happening or that determination and power is coming through, even if it doesn't feel easy to channel it right now. It's happening.
With that, do you want to do yours?
Sure.
Yay.
Okay, so I ended up doing mine right before we started just because we're going to do mine, Corinne's, and then we're going to do one with Corinne and I together, and Kalyn will do readings of them. But we also wanted to give time for people to ask questions of Kalyn if they have any.
Do you want to talk about how the booth works?
And everything? We can like get you set up in there and as we do that, we can sort of show how it all works.
Pay no attention to the woman behind the curtain.
All right. So, exactly. You're going to sit in the middle there. And then you guys can see we have these like crazy looking plates here. Those are basically going to be reading the electrical field that your body is producing. And the way that this camera works is it takes those electrical readings from your hands and it takes the wavelengths of those readings. And colors also have wavelengths, and it matches up the wavelengths of the electricity you're producing with the wavelengths of these colors. And that's how we produce the aura. So the camera itself isn't actually capturing like a physical image of like this aura that exists around you, like a medium might see. It's actually an image created by this algorithm that is assigning these colors that gets double exposed over your regular image. And that's how we get the aura image. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Is it typical that what the camera sees aligns with what mediums will see, or are they kind of
sometimes? Yeah. So the way and this is something I think about a lot when I get like a little nerdy with aura stuff in my mind, is that this camera uses its own algorithm that's specific to this technology to sort of, again, assign values to these different readings. So I always think about how psychics and clairvoyants who can see auras visually have their own psychic algorithm that could be similar to this camera's algorithm or could be very different. So, for example, a medium could see your aura as pink, let's say, and maybe their psychic algorithm sees pink auras around people who are very gentle and loving and in a very affectionate emotional state. This camera might see affectionate emotional states through a blue energy. So you might photograph blue, but it's still sort of picking up on the same emotional energy through a different algorithm.
I mean, that kind of makes sense because they say like I've never seen life through anyone else's eyes. So like the way I view green might be completely like your green might be my red.
Totally. And I think
the same thing.
Well, you're literally experiencing that the other day with wallpaper for our new podcast office, and Sabrina said it's gray. I said it's green, and I went and got color matched, and it's gray-green.
Gray-green.
That is so
gray-green.
funny.
And I think that's one of the kind of beautiful things that aura photography can make us think about too, is that like, I think as humans, we really want we really want defined answers for things where we want this like universal rule that like across the board in the universe, red energy means this.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's really how energy works.
No,
it's not that linear. It's not that defined. So red energy can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people and a lot of different psychic algorithms. And it's all going to be correct based on being used within the system that it's being used within.
Yeah.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That makes
Totally.
sense.
Yay. So
Okay.
yes, we're going to read the electrical field. That's going to get translated.
I'm gonna
I
show
will shut
everyone
this
the
and
little,
we'll show
like-
you the other side of the camera here.
Also, this is my favorite. It's also just like cool lighting.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
It's very atmospheric. And so when we're here, the camera takes a double exposure, like I said. So it takes 5 to 20 seconds. So we'll pull the little shutter here.
Give me like a 3, 2, 1.
Yes.
Staring through the light.
Exactly. Yeah. If you want to stare into the light or away from the light, if you want to match, you can stare into the light. I'll give you that little 3.
Be prepared
2,
to be
1 here.
blind.
3, 2, 1. Sometimes they're really fast, and sometimes they take what seems like ages. Beautiful.
Woo, I feel like I stared into the sun.
I know, right?
And I was trying not to blink either. I wasn't sure if that mattered.
Totally. Do we want to take yours together while that one develops?
Yeah, we should. I'm just seeing what people are
Yeah.
saying. Litha says you're a cutie patootie, Corinne.
Thanks,
So
Lisa.
true.
Letha reads tarot for us.
There are 117
Yay.
people here.
Wow.
Okay,
Here.
so for then this one, we're gonna sit next to each other side by side.
Each person does one hand on a plate for these ones with 2 people.
Should we hold
And I was sort of explaining to them before we started that with 2 people, it's less like a half and half aura, since we're already going to see what each of their individual auras look like. And so when you do it together, it's actually like an aura of your bond or your relationship together. So it's going to be really cute.
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
I think that's the best way to
it.
do it. A lot of times with 2 people, people get the giggles a little bit. Don't worry, your faces might look a tiny bit blurry, but as long as your
Okay,
hands
okay.
stay on there, the aura is going to come out just fine. All right, we're going to abandon you guys for 1 second there.
The air. I'm really hungry. So.
I'll give you guys that same 3, 2, 1 here. 3, 2, 1.
It's so
Beautiful.
hard not to breathe.
I haven't stared into your eyes for that long. It's so long.
But
But it has happened
Alright.
because we've done so many photos and stuff together.
I
We're like,
know.
let's look at each other today.
That's my favorite pose for people to do together is either looking into their eyes or if it's a romantic couple, a kissing aura is very, very cute.
That's
Oh,
so
cute.
cute. I
I
did
want to bring
love.
my baby in.
I know.
Please do.
Little
Truly,
cheeks.
like babies and animals are like my favorite.
I loved your. We were with you. When was it? We've been here so many times now. But you talked about how you like every month did a new aura photo.
Yeah.
And like seeing through the year how it
Mhm.
evolves, and I think that is such a cool idea.
Yeah, so your aura does change for most people. Some people have very, very static auras that don't change a lot. The owner of the store, her aura is always blue. We've like put her in an itchy sweater. We've spun her around in a chair. We've yelled praise at her from outside the booth. Like we've done everything. She is just very consistent in her blue energy. Other people who work here will photograph entirely differently, like week to
Yeah.
week, completely different
Interesting.
colors.
Wow.
So I think it does sort of go with people who are kind of like more mutable and will bring
Yeah.
sort of different parts of themselves forward depending
Right.
on who they're around or what's going on.
Yeah.
All authentic parts of
Mhm.
them, but just
Right.
different facets. And then there's those other people who you're just like, no matter who they're around, no matter what's going on, you kind of know what energy you're going to get from them. And
Yeah.
those are usually those more sort of consistent auras. So you've already seen yours,
Yes.
but you can show it off to our friends
It
there. Super
So
beautiful.
cool. Like,
Here, do you want me to stand up there and hold it while you get your reading so people can,
Yeah.
or
but
do you
I'm
need to
trying
Oh.
see it?
No, I mean, I can see it fine
Okay.
through there.
I feel like you're getting the reflection. I don't know what the best way to hold it is.
Yeah, they are very reflective. That is the way it is. As you all can see right
We'll
away,
just get right in.
off
here.
the bat, what is really, really noticeable about this aura is this stark band of white happening over Sabrina's head here. And that is pretty characteristic for actually like a lot of the psychics and mediums that we work with.
And we
I
were just
know.
talking about how, and all of you know, I've really been opening myself up lately. So
You spend enough time in a cemetery
Yeah.
asking for ghosts to talk to you.
Then they will start talking.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, white is interesting because it is not a color we see a whole lot in the aura, and it's full spectrum light. So it's all the colors of light, all happening at once, all sort of condensed into one energetic zone. So I tend to look at it like a floodgate being open on whatever that center is. In your case, it's going to be your mental energy, that the floodgate is open here. And so usually with people with mental spaces like this, I'll describe it as like, we're somebody who has a lot of trains of thought running all at once, very active, very busy mind. And then there's also trains coming in from other stations. And that's where that sort of psychic, intuitive, open channel kind of energy can come in. It can feel really inspiring, really dynamic, highly intuitive. It can also feel pretty mentally overwhelming.
I did feel very mentally overwhelmed.
Not because
I told you
it's
that.
negative energy, just because it's a lot of energy all at once. And it is sort of coinciding here with some of this bright blue energy. And you can kind of get clues about like where we might be feeling a little bit of overwhelm based on those other colors mixing with white. So with bright blue, it's a very communicative, connection-oriented energy. So we might be feeling like social battery-wise a little bit overwhelmed when we see that white mixing with blue. Because we are really focused on connection. And with white, it's always this sort of double-edged sword where like that intensity is a really cool, great thing because we are experiencing this extreme version of what that bright blue energy is. But because it is an extreme version, it can also be quite exhausting. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, in the lower corners for you, and let me just switch around so I can make sure I know my lefts and rights. Yes. Okay. So they're actually pretty seamless on both sides. On both sides in the lower corners for her, we get a mixture of bright blue and indigo energy. And these both fall under the umbrella of blue energy. And this is going to be her internal energy and the energy she's projecting outward here. And with blue energy, like I was saying, the priority is really connection. They want to feel a compassionate, caring connection with other energies around them. Doesn't surprise me to see you have so much bright blue because bright blue does want to connect with others by talking to them. So for a podcast host, bright blue is a great energy. There's usually not only a real desire to express ourselves and sort of like speak our truth and hear the truths of others and bounce ideas off of people, but there's usually quite a talent for expression as well. So lots of like people who are great at public speaking, writers, singers, poets, musicians will have this bright blue because there's something about the way they express that really resonates and connects with people.
That checks out.
Totally.
I'm better at writing than I am talking.
Yeah.
But the podcast is editable. See, there we go.
Exactly.
Literally proof.
Why are we live streaming again?
We also have it seamlessly blending with that indigo, which means those energies are harmonizing really well. We're not feeling at odds with them. And indigo also wants connection, but because indigo really emphasizes the intuitive, energetically sensitive qualities of blue, it does prefer more of like an unspoken, energetic connection. Sometimes it gravitates towards plants, or I know you love animals, because it can still nurture and connect with those energies, but it's a lot less taxing than being around other people tends to be for that indigo energy. So when we get that bright blue mixed with indigo, it is that kind of ambivert energy where like, yes, we want to go out, we want to be a social butterfly and ping all these ideas. And then we want to return to our indigo cocoon and sort of reconnect with our own emotions, our own energy.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
This one, I feel like what's interesting is like here and here, there's the red,
it's like purple mixing with white,
which I had never seen in mine before. Not like that, because the previous ones, like there was like the whitish blue at my chest, or my heart.
Yeah, I feel like previously yours was kind of bluish purple over here, and then you had
more white
lights up above.
Yes,
and now it's flipped.
So these little lights up above, which sometimes more often will show up white, they're thought to be little spirit guide presences hanging out up there.
Which is pretty consistent. Like the other one, I think it was like the same amount.
Oh, sure. And that's what I call a full roster, when that whole upper band is lit up.
Full house.
Everybody showed up. And I personally believe that everybody has spirit guides, but we don't see them in every aura photo. So it's still pretty sweet when we do get to see them. I think they show up when they are like especially active for us, or we're feeling especially kind of like present with them. Blue energies do tend to be quite receptive, so we'll usually see quite a bit of spirit guide activity in those. Yours are taking on these really distinctive colors of their own right now, where they have that purple light on one side and that blue light on the other that matches up identically with those orbs happening over the body.
Right.
So I look at these guides happening currently as directly supporting those processes going on. So with purple mixing with white over the heart space, I love to see this. Purple energy, I always tell people, think about Prince when you think about purple energy. It's super imaginative and outside the box and whimsical, and it has a completely authentic self-expression. So there's usually something quite eccentric or a little bit offbeat about people with a lot of that purple energy. So when we see it radiating from the heart space, it really is like we are radiating our authentic vision that is like so aligned with our spirit straight from that heart space. And with white mixing there, again, floodgate open on that heart space. So big, wide open heart space, which is beautiful to see. Sometimes white over the heart space feels pretty amazing. It can feel really like, oh, I'm just sort of overflowing with like good feelings and love for the world around me. It can sometimes feel like we're processing some grief or like some heartbreak too when we have white coming up over the heart. But both times, like both ways that it shows up, I do think it's this beautiful, like transformative, heart opening, very beneficial kind of process for the heart.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Also, people are commenting saying that the white around her, the like kind of psychic part, makes it look like she's about to be abducted by aliens.
And she might be.
I would love
She
to
might
be.
She's sending out that
honestly.
beacon for
Well,
sure.
sounds like a
An
dream.
alien abduction might just be psychically abducted.
And that's actually sometimes how I describe purple energy, as an energy where other people are like, are you talking to aliens? Like, where are these ideas coming from? Because it is such an outside the box sort of abstract kind of energy. And then with the bright blue over the solar plexus, again, that's like one of your talents, one of your gifts to shine in the world is this ability to express and communicate and connect with others in that way. And listen to your heart right now, and then listen to what wants to shine, because that's really where those guides are speaking through.
Yeah.
So
Thank
pretty.
you.
Yes.
This is so fun.
I love it.
Corinne, your
Are
turn.
you ready?
I'm scared. I've never been so
Oh my God,
nervous
your guys'
before.
together is so cute. I hadn't looked at it yet.
I'm so curious.
Oh my God.
I was like, I feel like I'm gonna vomit every second of my
Corinne.
life.
So very different.
That is
Hold it.
crazy.
Very,
Every time I've had mine done before,
it's been
it's
blue,
been
purple.
purple
Can I
and
see?
blue.
Can I do it like how you were doing? I can see.
Oh my god!
So today, Corinne is not purple and blue. So
why am I
typically-
struggling so much?
ready?
Oh, because this is delayed. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
So archetypally, I usually describe
Hold from the
auras
middle, so
more
yeah.
like Sabrina's, as sort of like the dreamer aura. And then this kind of aura, I usually describe as like a big boss aura. Because while the dreamer aura is very focused on sort of introspection and connection and emotion, this kind of aura is very focused on action and getting things done and taking care of business and like making moves. Which, if you're going through like a challenging time where a lot of moves need to be made,
That made sense.
That
My
makes
child,
sense.
like 3 weeks ago, started to have a lot of trouble eating and like literally wouldn't eat. And
Oh,
our pediatrician's like, your only job is to keep this child alive. So it's like every second of my day, me and my husband are like zeroed in, focused on like what can we do to get.
Yes, and that's going to
Something
be
in them.
this like deep red that we see right close
Wow.
around your head. So with the colors that show up on this camera, there's no colors that are inherently unproblematic ascended energies, and there's also no colors that are inherently sinister negative energies. They all have their strengths and their weaknesses. When they go a little bit muddier, we usually are experiencing some of the more challenging aspects of that energy. When they're nice and bright, we're usually in the strengths or the easier to deal with qualities of those energies. You have a lot of nice bright colors here, but that red does go just a little bit muddy. And
It
that
does
makes-
also look like it's like the green above is like exploding up. Like I feel like it's almost going off the border of the photo.
Yes, that green energy is really strong and really expansive, which is a beautiful balance for the red that's going on, and we'll talk about that. But with red energy, it's very strong, it's very determined, it's the most grounded energy on the camera. So it's the best energy at getting shit done, for sure. It's really good at that. What it doesn't love is change. It wants to feel safe and secure and comfortable and rooted. And so when big change is happening around us, red can struggle a little bit and feel a bit of that anxiety. Red also deals with our survival and the survival of those around us. So if we're super focused literally
That's
on
crazy.
our only job is making sure
That
that
is
this baby
wild.
is fed,
Yeah.
we see that. You are really focused on food, shelter, these basic things to make sure we've got a nice, strong, solid foundation to work from.
Damn.
With red, think about your animal instincts. That's what red is really dealing with.
Yeah.
And not that
I feel like I'm in fight or flight like 24/7.
See, and red doesn't inherently mean we're in that state, but especially when it does go a little murky like that, we can definitely be feeling a bit of that sort of like fight or flight state. I do associate red with this energy of the fighter, and that can feel like we are fighting the fight of our life, but it can also feel like, oh my gosh, like we're fighting for what we love. We're fighting for our passions. It can also have this very like love focused kind of fight to it. So I always like to emphasize that it's not an inherently super aggressive energy. It's just very passionate. So it's going to fight for what it believes in. I also find that red is a little bit sold short sometimes in that it's very physical. And so I think it gets pigeonholed into a category of like least spiritual energy.
Yeah.
And I actually really disagree. I actually view indigo and red as tied for most intuitive energies on this camera. The big difference is going to be that indigo intuition, I think, feels how we classically think of intuition feeling, which is it's kind of coming from the ether. Red intuition, it's those animal instincts. It's going to come from your physical body. It's going to be a pit in your stomach. It's going to be your hair standing up on your arms. It's going to be all these ways our actual physical body sends us these messages, which is really valuable information. And when people sort of naturally like tune into this red energy, I think they can take for granted what a skill that really is. Because they're like, it's my body. Like, how would I not know what it's saying? I'm like trapped in here forever. But for like the dreamer aura, it can be really hard sometimes to tune into what the body's saying, even though they can tell you like what your dead grandmother has to say to you. They like can't tell you if they're hungry. You know what I mean? And with red, we usually, the mind-body connection is actually very, very strong when we have that nice red energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it's kind of ironic because Sabrina asks me to possess her all the time and just make decisions for her.
I do.
Yeah,
I would
the
love
open
that.
channel is ready and waiting for sure, for sure. Now, what's interesting is along with that red in the mental space, you have yellow and green. This little like stoplight trio, red, yellow, green, likes to come through together. Right? You can see them sort of like stacking like a little parfait up there. And I look at that trio as really a signature of new growth, which you're experiencing for sure. Absolutely.
I grew something.
Definitely.
I grew a lot of things. All over.
So many things. So many things. And so with that trio, I look at it this way because with green, we do get this energy of like a long-term growth and goal orientation where there is a vision that, again, over the long term, we are feeling a devotion to. A lot of people, when they are starting a family, bringing kids into the world, moving homes, moving career fields, we'll see this green energy show up where we do have these bigger visions that we're really willing to work at little by little for a long time because it's not an obligation. It's not something superficial. It's deeply meaningful to us. When we're in that green energy, devotion is like a key piece for green to come through. And so we see this energy of growth. Then we see yellow, which is excited about that growth. We'll talk in more detail about yellow, but just sort of to gloss over it here, it's this like excited, little bit nervous feeling we have about however that growth is going to go. And then we inevitably get a little bit of murky red going, whoa, change is happening. And that's a little bit spooky because anytime growth and optimism team up, our little lizard brain just has to kick in for like 1 second to be like, but what if it all goes wrong? Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. And that's 100% my personality all the time.
Totally. Now, with the yellow energy, we're projecting outward. Yellow, like I was saying, is very excitable.
There's a dog
so
at the door.
cute. Dogs always want to come in here because the energy is so good. We're distracted by a very cute dog visitor.
glow stick.
Oh my God.
So with yellow, very sunshiny energy. A lot of it is what you'd think of intuitively. It's joyful, it's playful, it's exuberant, it's giggly. It's also one of the most flexible and spontaneous and adaptable energies on the camera, which makes it a beautiful balance for red because one of red's challenges is it can be very stubborn and can resist change a little bit. That stubbornness is also a gift for red. It is an unstoppable force of will once it sets its mind to something. But yellow brings in an energy of flexibility and adaptability and ability to go with the flow that red doesn't necessarily have on its own. The flip side of yellow energy I always like to bring up is that it can be a little bit of an anxious energy as well. just because excitement and anxiety are like two sides of the same coin. It can be really hard to tell the difference sometimes between those two feelings. And with yellow, while it's very carefree and quite confident, it's very observant and it's very analytical. And it's a fast-paced energy. And when you get a fast-paced energy and an analytical energy, sometimes those mental wheels just get turning really, really fast. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It makes total sense.
And so I love that really the only space we see some of that like murkier red energy is like right around the mind where like it's pretty unavoidable. We're clearly processing it because on the way out, that energy has this confident, optimistic, adaptable energy.
Yeah.
That is quite
That's
joyful.
because I see the future, which is when my child is 12 months old and can maybe feed
You
himself
are
and want to
seeing
eat.
that future for sure. So
Yeah.
high priority energy for you up there in those
Yeah.
upper bands is that sense of growth, that longer term vision. And then we do see a little bit of that like super present, urgently right now. What do I have to do to feel a bit better? And that's the real balance that is sort of struck between red and green is when you think about your animal instincts, a rabbit is not making like a 5-year plan. It's exactly today, presently, what do I need to feel more resourced and secure? So it's not thinking too far back. It's not thinking too far ahead. And then green can help take over and really help those short-term actions build towards this larger vision for us. Does that make sense? Yes. Super beautiful. You also have that full roster of little spirit guides hanging out up there.
Yeah, I can like kind of see them, but they're a little bit almost hidden in the...
They are a little bit softer here, definitely. So I would look at that as sort of like where your guides like have a megaphone right now. Right. Yours are sort of like whispering in your ear right now. But for you also, listen to that heart and listen to that gut because you have this growth energy lighting up both those spaces and it's matching that lime green energy of those guides. So they are, for you as well, really speaking through those spaces. And to have the green over the heart, pretty self-explanatory. Our heart quite literally is in whatever this growth is. But then over the sacral, great affirmation and confirmation that even if that like 12-month point or whatever it is we're moving towards does feel like a little far off, a little untouchable and ungraspable for us right now, it's in the process of becoming something that does feel like more touchable and tangible and present for us. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Totally
There are two different comments that were made that made me smile. One person said it looks like sunflower energy. And then someone else, T, just said it looks like my favorite fruit roll-up flavor.
So
I know exactly.
The best.
Yeah,
I know it is very that.
Little tattoos on your
And something I'm noticing too is it's a very limey green over here, especially. And the limier we go with greens, the more impatient we can tend to be about the pace of that growth. Because the more yellow comes in, the faster we want to go because yellow wants to go fast.
Yeah. I mean, every day feels like a year at this point. So I'm like, why hasn't this resolved itself? It's been 8 hours.
One thing that's sort of sweet in that context, though, for you is that yellow also, to me, has like a lot of inner child energy because of how like exuberant and sort of like expressive it is. And so I do find like one of the really beautiful things, at least in my witnessing of like other people going through motherhood, is that like that inner child really does get to kind of like come out and play a little bit and be encouraged by being around a child. And so it's beautiful that even though, yes, we clearly are experiencing like a little bit of stress, a little bit of overwhelm, we really are also balancing that with this beautiful sense of growth and like all this optimism as well.
Great.
I love it.
You can do it. All right. For people who there were a couple people who were like, we joined late. Can we see them again? So this one is
super psychic,
mine,
super communicative,
and then Corinne,
super gorgeous,
anxious, trying to survive.
Big boss aura, focused on action, focused on growth, but experiencing a little bit of uncomfortable change, definitely.
Yeah. Well, this answers my question, which was, is my aura going to change dramatically to match what I feel I'm experiencing now? And the answer was, hell yes, it did.
Definitely.
When is the last time you got your like just individual done?
When you and I did them individually.
So
I guess like 3 or 4 years ago then.
And yours was pretty.
But
that's
what was
the
interesting
photo
was the aura photo that I got of me individually matched. Like throughout my lifetime, I had 3 different people tell me that they could see auras, and it was the exact same color every single person.
I would bet that's like kind of your energetic baseline, where like you're thrown off your baseline right now because so much is happening.
Right.
But
I was
most
always
people
like
have
light
like
purple.
a baseline.
Yeah, and now.
Well, and it's funny that there is this
I'm on fire.
and I do look at purple and red as like perfect complements for each other. So it's kind of nice perhaps that we are experimenting a little bit with like embracing this red energy, because where purple is like completely detached from our physical reality, red is like very focused on our physical reality. So they are very different energies, but
So we're kind of experiencing the opposite.
almost a little bit, definitely, where this is really entirely focused in the cerebral energies for you. So very heady, sort of introspective, emotion oriented. And here we're very grounded. We want to see it to believe it. We want to see those tangible, like that tangible progress and like physical change in our world to know that what we're trying to make happen is happening.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I also do feel like that makes sense to us in our lives right now. Like you are dealing with something that like is so outside of you.
Yeah.
Whereas I am dealing with something that is very much, I have to find it within myself.
Right.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
puts it perfectly, actually.
Yeah.
Definitely. Do you want to see yours together?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like
I
beyond
can't even
cute.
predict what
I have no idea.
First of all, the
It looks
photo
like
is
right
just
now.
really cute. So glad you guys decided to look at each other. But like, are you kidding me?
Whoa.
Look at how vibrant your colors are.
Wow.
Look at these two cutie patooties
Oh my
together. Blue, green,
Is the green
all
mean we're
the
gonna make a lot
way.
of money this year?
It could.
I
It could.
I was thinking alien abduction again. Because I'm like, green.
Or
It's
alien
like an
abduction.
alien.
It's so funny. One of my coworkers actually went to Ireland and she went to a leprechaun museum.
Oh my
And when she came back, I was like, do you want to be the test photo for the day for aura photos? And she was like, yes, I'm going to think about the leprechaun museum. And she has never photographed with very much green in her aura. And I kid you not, straight up, her aura was 100% green when she was
Wow.
thinking about the
Crazy.
leprechaun museum.
Oh my God.
Which was
That
so
is
funny.
cool.
I have a picture of it somewhere. I can like post it on Instagram.
Yeah,
But
this is so fun.
beautiful combination to have shared there, because the same way I look at as like purple and red are sort of perfect energetic pairings and balances for each other in the same aura. Blue and green are a perfect balance for each other in the same aura. And so we really, really have a nice balanced energy when we're together. And when we look at the duo photos, we will look at this corner as sort of like the internal energy of the relationship.
Which
So
one?
sort of the blue corner
Okay.
here is going to be like the energy at the core of the relationship. Bright green over here will be the energy you two project outward when you're together. Your mental connection is also this nice bright green. And then your shared priority together right now is also this beautiful
Glad
bright
we
green.
have the same
energy.
priorities.
That's nice to be business partners with you.
Absolutely. And so really what makes these colors so perfectly balanced for each other is that blue, it's a connection oriented energy. So it is very focused on like everyone else and making sure everyone's feeling seen and heard and taken care of and nurtured. And in that way, one of the challenges for blue energy is it can sort of lose sight of its own needs, its own goals, where it's trying to go, the support that it needs to get there. And that's exactly what green is very focused on, is where it's trying to go, what it needs to get there. And green is also very comfortable asking for the support that it needs to get where it's trying to go. Similarly, when green energy is out of balance, it can become so hyper-focused on its goal that it starts to lack a little bit of awareness about how it's affecting other energies. Blue helps it maintain this beautiful, someone's bopping outside.
Have you seen Fuego Poppy going
Oh.
around here?
Oh
my
yeah,
God.
we love it when he comes around.
He goes around Marblehead too.
Wow, he really gets around.
And there's a whole Reddit thread about him.
Oh
I
my
literally
God.
have no
He's
idea
in
who
like
this
a
is.
bright neon green Jeep,
Jeep.
and like drives around Salem and Marblehead.
Just
Who is this person?
blasting
Oh,
music.
like,
just
I have
a
no
local
idea.
character.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's like a Reddit about him. They're like, who is this guy? What
Yeah,
does he
like
do?
he's iconic in the
Okay,
area.
we're on different Reddit threads because
Yeah.
I'm getting
Well, I
this,
looked him
like,
up because I was like, what is
the
happening?
seal in Beverly that just keeps like
Barking.
yeah, like
Is there an
wandering
incessantly
around.
barking seal in Beverly?
Yeah,
Oh,
they're like
God.
literally making ice cream flavors for him.
Stop.
I love that for him. I
That's
love that for
amazing.
him.
Herbert, I think his name is, or something. I don't know.
A Herbert Sherbert.
Herbert
They better make a
Oh my
sherbet.
God. So, yes, we have this beautiful balance. And with this beautiful blue at the core of the relationship, again, we get a nice mix of bright blue and indigo for you guys. So I would guess, yes, the lines of communication are nice and strong. We probably do love to talk when we're together. I mean, no surprises there, right? And we really are, again, communicating with each other from this place of like, I want to connect. I want to understand and feel a compassionate connection. So I love to see blue and duo photos in general because we love a connection-oriented energy when we're with someone. Now, the presence of all this nice indigo also shows we don't have to say things out loud in order for the other person to
It's
sort
so
of
true.
pick up on
Yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah.
We definitely feel comfortable speaking our truth in the relationship, but we don't have to say things out loud. And the
No.
other person
No,
most
we know.
likely
We know.
will sense what's going on and is also quite willing to like offer what we need to feel comforted or supported. Indigo is really good at naturally just sort of showing up in that way.
Yeah.
So beautiful that that's really at the core of things is the
Mhm.
sense of compassion and empathy. And then it makes sense that like you guys run a business together as well. And so we do see this energy of like long-term growth.
Mhm.
And I also really love green in duo photos because of that devotion piece of green. I feel like when we photograph green with someone else, there really is like a real sense of devotion to supporting that other person's growth and watching that person grow over the long term,
Mm.
both individually and together. And I do usually see it between people who either have known each other a long time or plan on knowing each other
Yeah.
a long
Yeah.
time because it does
Well,
have
we've known
that
each other
slower,
12
steadier
years.
energy.
Almost, no, 13. It's 24. We met in 2011. 13 years.
Jeez.
That qualifies
That's a
for
long time.
sure. Yeah, I do find like 10 years or longer, we'll start to see
Yeah.
like lots of greens
Yeah.
showing up for people a lot of the time. And this is like a crazy strong green energy. And I should also note, it's not that green is like an especially rare aura color, but when we do see it, it is usually isolated a little more to sort of like one or two chunks of the photo, sort of like, I mean, yours
Mm.
even individually was quite a bit for one photo,
Yeah.
but that's a little bit more how we'll kind of typically see green energy. You can see like this is so saturated and
Yeah.
it is so much of the photo. So really, when you sort of joked like, oh, are we going to make a lot of money this year? Like maybe straight up, because it does look like when you guys are together, the potential for growth and the potential for really taking these slow, steady actions towards this bigger vision is like only amplified times a million.
Well, I did buy a lottery ticket on the way over, so.
Good move. Good
Okay,
move.
well, this is about us.
And that's that
Are you gonna share
optimism.
that
Are
with
you
me?
going to benefit from it? I'm
I
sure
hope
you
so.
will.
That's that optimistic yellow you're projecting. You're like, I've got this. Absolutely.
Yeah, what did you say about me being grounded again? When I win the lottery.
Well, and yellow, I will say, of all of the physical world focused energies, is definitely the least grounded of the physical world. That red and that green for you are very grounded,
Yeah.
but yellow definitely is pretty happy-go-lucky.
Okay.
Any questions about the auras here?
let's show it.
I'll look at in
Let's see.
here.
Yeah, if anyone has questions, these are all three of them.
So beautiful. Money, 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 money.
Wait, we're all about that. It is cool. I mean, I know you said that like usually it's not like two energies meeting, it's like the energy of the both of us, but like it is cool seeing
Yeah,
them
how
all
that blue
together,
sort of
yeah.
pulls from you and that green
Yeah.
sort of pulls from her, for sure.
Oh, this is a good question. So you were explaining that the camera, for the specific camera, colors mean something different.
Mhm.
How do you know what the colors mean?
Yeah,
for this
so there is a manual that comes with the camera. And for this, we can actually get a little into like the history of the camera because so the way this camera was invented, basically in the 30s, there was a Russian engineer and his wife who was a biologist who came up with this thing. I think it's pronounced Kirlian photography or maybe Kirlian photography. But they basically discovered that if you put an object on an electrically charged plate and you photograph it, you can basically photograph, like they called it, the electric coronal discharge of the object. So basically the electrical field that object's producing. And based on that technology in the 70s, when New Age was getting really big and everyone was definitely talking about auras and all of these things, Guy Coggins based some technology off of this Kirlian photography to create these hand plates and the AuraCam 6000 as we know it today. And so the camera we use today is actually the same camera that was invented in the 70s. We just use, they've since switched out. It used to be like a regular Polaroid camera inside the fixture, and now it's an Instax because the old film was discontinued. But other than that, the technology is the same. And when Guy Coggins was inventing this machine, he had the engineering side worked out, and then he worked with clairvoyants to make sure that the colors that were sort of registering from the camera were matching up with what these clairvoyants were sort of already seeing.
Okay.
And then as far as the interpretations of what the colors mean go, there is a manual that comes with the camera that is very kind of rudimentary as far as like a couple keywords for kind of each color. But really, Christina Lonsdale, who actually wrote a book called Radiant Human, which we sell at HausWitch. Shameless plug, but it is a great book. Christina Lansdale, she's also goes by Radiant Human on Instagram. I definitely recommend giving her a follow. She is like the icon of aura photography. She's been called the Annie Leibovitz of aura photography by Vogue. Like she is the girl. But basically what she did is she compiled case studies. So she took thousands of these photos and then interviewed people about what's going on in your life. How are you feeling? So she could start to identify these patterns. So she collected data, which is anecdotal data, but a wide data set nonetheless.
Right.
So for me, that was the biggest resource because I'm a red dominant aura. I like to see it to believe it. I'm not necessarily obviously the most skeptical person in the world, but I do like some tangible sort of something to go off of. So for me, her work has been so pivotal. And she was also the person who really pioneered looking at these aura photos as a current snapshot of our energy. Before that, the sort of traditional way, and some people still do it this way, and I think that it can be correct this way. I think everyone has their own style of sort of intuiting these things. But it used to sort of be looked at like this internal side was more like our past energy. The middle of the photo would be our present energy. And then this side would be future energy. And she was the one who really sort of coined like, that's not really resonating with the people I'm interviewing. I don't think this is predictive. I think this is a snapshot of the energy as it stands in this moment right now. It's all present energy. It's just different parts of our energy. But long story long, Radiant Human is really how I've identified sort of the different meanings for the different colors because her work really resonates with me. And most of her sort of meanings do align pretty closely with like the more traditional meanings, with the exception of like green in traditional aura photography is a little more associated with like a loving, heart-centered energy and less of a growth-oriented energy. And then like pinks are also traditionally associated with a little bit more of like a affectionate, gentle, romantic energy. Whereas she noticed like a specifically soft pink only shows up in people's mental areas on this camera.
Interesting.
So she actually identified it more as an energy of a little bit of mental uncertainty because it's a strictly mental process that people were experiencing. And it also, people weren't resonating with that like gentle, like loving, but most people did feel like they were at like a mental crossroads when they had that soft pink. So she does diverge a little bit, but incredible resource. And that's definitely been the biggest influence in the way that I read and interpret.
Amazing. Someone
Another
asked,
question. Oh,
what was the?
Oh yeah, I didn't
like,
even
in the
touch
middle
on
of
that.
us?
Yes. So the same way that we can have energy centers light up on individual auras, we can have energy centers light up within the relationship. So right over the shared heart space and sacral center here, we get actually almost like blue-green blends. Over the heart, especially a blue-green blend, a little bit more green focused over the sacral. But to have that blue-green blend over the heart space is like stunning because that means really at the heart of the relationship, there is this balance between being able to take care of ourselves and feeling like we're able to focus on ourselves and like our emotions and our feelings and being able to look out for one another and one another's growth. There's this really even balance and those energies aren't conflicting. We're not feeling a push and pull between the side of us that looks out for ourselves and the side of us that looks out for the other.
Yeah.
Those two sides right now are the same. They're working together perfectly. And then this green over the shared sacral. The sacral can help us bring like our big ideas and visions into the physical world. So we likely, again, I mean, this is already evidenced by how much green we have in the photo in general, but it does show we really amplify each other's ability to like actualize these ideas and bring them into the physical where they are tangible.
I feel like that's so spot on too of our relationship.
it does feel.
It always has been like we can lean on each other when we need to and also like be able to have space for ourselves.
Yeah. I know I was thinking as you were describing it, I was like, oh, well, you know, we've had 13 years to practice it. And I was like, we never actually did. It's always been like that since we met.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why it's so bright and showing.
Right.
Yeah. It's just like, it's always been
that's
that
always
way.
been that energy.
That's who we are. Linda asked, how often do you suggest taking an aura photo?
So, I mean, as often as possible. No,
Every
obviously,
day.
in the best world, we could all get our aura photo taken every day. But as far as what I think is like a nice little benchmark, I think anywhere between every like 4 to 6 months, if you really want to get detailed with it, or even once a year, can be enough to really get some valuable insight into like what's changing, what's staying the same energetically. Sometimes you can see cool linear movement. I think I told you guys maybe I have like a 4-month sequence where none of the colors around me change, but you can watch like a purple sphere go from my sacral to my solar plexus to my heart
That's so
to my
cool.
throat, just in a straight line over those 4 months.
Wow.
And you know, benchmarks like where we're going through big change.
Right. Yeah.
And even if it is a
Yeah.
tougher time, I do think it's like a beautiful way to commemorate, you know, big shifts in our life and
Yeah.
big changes, and sort of be able to see it like, yeah, where was my energy at that point? Because like I said, there really is no negative energy. So even if we are like, yeah, it was a little murky, a little bit red, there was some stress. Yeah, but look at all that beautiful
I
growth and
know.
optimism and change as well.
You should write the date and like what was going
Oh
on.
yeah.
So you remember.
I always date mine
part of
so
the
that
struggle.
I can really find that timeline.
Help.
But it's also like, that's a cool way to like, yeah, like you're saying, like benchmarks in your life, and then also like,
Yeah, like she has a cool
Yeah.
case study in here where she photographs a couple, you know, like right when they're sort of together, I think, and then also when they first buy a home together, and then when they're having a baby together. And
So
so you can sort
cool.
of see how their
Yeah.
couple's aura changes through these major milestones.
I'd be curious to see what yours and Brian's looks like now,
Because we had
because
ours
you had
done
yours when you were pregnant.
before when we were pregnant.
Yeah.
And you had pointed out, you were like, oh, this light here is often shows up when people are pregnant. And we're like, well,
Yeah.
there we go.
Yep,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, and one of my coworkers here is pregnant right now too, and we've been having so much fun sort of like through the trimesters and through these different phases
that's
of
so
her
cool.
pregnancy, seeing how her aura shifts. We have noticed a lot of people during pregnancy will kind of start, or like in early motherhood, will sometimes start to shift into a lot of that blue energy. I think especially during pregnancy, we get a lot of this blue and indigo energy coming through, because I do think we go into like, you know, a very intuitive,
Yeah.
emotional sort of
Yeah.
state. And again, that nurturing energy as well comes through
Right.
really strong. But yeah, it's fascinating to see sort of the different things. Also, like little kids will often either have like a solid color or like a total rainbow, because
That's
they're
so
either like
cool.
really
I want
fixed
to
in their
do,
energy.
this is what I'm trying to figure out is like, is it possible to take little tiny baby hands on those plates?
So I've never photographed like a baby alone. So when people
Because I'm
photograph,
like, if I crouch below and hold this little
that would
fingers-
be like so cute.
It would be. You have to like
Um,
prop him up on like one of his little.
I
like,
know.
Babies
pillows.
do sometimes end up looking like a little bit like demon babies, because they just don't like to sit still. And so with the camera taking a double exposure,
Do it
they'll
when
be
he's-
like this,
do
and
it
then
when
their
he's-
face is like all
Either do it
blurry,
when he's
and there's a blur
napping.
face.
Yeah.
But it is still like so cute, because yeah, they will sometimes have their own little orb of energy over them.
cute.
Animals will have their own little orb of energy. So yeah, people will usually just hold
Have
their
people
babe on their
done
lap.
it with like a cat before?
Yes. Oh, one of my favorite ones I've taken was a woman and her cross-eyed cat named Penelope. They
wanna
were
do one
like
with Leia
pure
so
purple
bad.
and indigo, like pure mystical intuitive connection together. her
I
and
feel like
Penelope.
Leia's energy would be chaotic.
I feel like most
Probably.
cats' energy
Yeah.
is like a little bit that
Yeah.
way. I had a girl come in with her snake once, which they were also like
That's
solid
sick.
indigo.
That's sick.
Very,
That's
very
really
cool.
cool.
I would never personally want that, but
No.
I love the idea.
It was
of that.
awesome
Yeah.
for sure.
Amazing.
Yay.
Just will you remind everyone about the store, HausWitch,
Yes.
and then about yourself and where to find
Of
you?
course, little promo. HausWitch, Salem, Mass. We are right on the corner here, and yeah, we're open every day of the week. We're doing aura photos every day of the week. We highly recommend booking ahead for aura photos during October, because it does get very, very busy in Salem. So plan ahead, plan for parking, leave yourself time for parking, but we would love to see you, absolutely. And then as far as my own stuff goes, Kaleidoscope Ritual on Instagram. I do all kinds of color magic stuff. So if you can't make it to Salem for an aura photography session, I do color magic oracle readings with my oracle cards, which is kind of like a cross between a tarot reading and an aura reading. I do tarot readings as well. I've been a tarot reader for over a decade. And I also paint something I call astro palettes, which is sort of like a visualization
That
of your
looks so
birth
cool.
chart in
Yeah.
color. So if you're into all this color magic stuff, if you want to learn more about like color magic in general, I know some people have never heard of that before, please follow along. I'm truly obsessed with it, and it's all I talk about and all I do. So Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. This
It's
was
so funny. I was
fun.
saying because like every time we've ever come in here, Kalyn's been working.
Yeah.
And I was like, "How often do you work here?" And she's like, "Twice a week." And it's
What?
like, how?
Friday
I thought you
and
meant
Saturday.
every day.
I literally
We,
same.
we line up with you every single time.
Yes, we have 2 other really amazing aura
I thought you
were
photographers
the
here.
only one.
Same.
100%. I'm shocked.
We do have 2 other fabulous aura photographers, Melissa and Cole. So if you come in for an aura photo, you might be with one of
So
them.
funny.
They are fabulous.
But if we're here, then it will be.
Yeah, if they're coming in somehow miraculously, it will be me here
Yeah.
every time.
That's
But
wild.
no, this was so fun because I have been a listener of the podcast for so long, but I'm a bad podcast fan where like I don't follow like most of my favorite podcasts and stuff on like other places on social
Well, most
media.
people consume it like it's
Well, it's
audible,
also-
like
it's
it's audio,
audio,
you know?
Right,
Yeah.
and so I
Yeah.
didn't know what you guys looked like. I mean, other than like your little illustration that's on the cover of the art. for
Are
the
you saying we don't look
podcast.
exactly like the cartoon version?
Which you do now that I see it. But I had taken your photos like
Yeah.
a couple
A few
times
times.
and met you a couple times before. And then I think you maybe shared one on Instagram or something
Yeah,
and tagged me.
Yeah.
And I was like, saw in your bio, like 2 girls, 1 ghost. And I was like, oh my God,
Oh
oh.
shit!
So I was also very excited to be here
Well,
because
that's
I
perfect.
like love the pod. So
Well,
this
thank
was a really
you.
fun little
Thank you.
collab.
I know, and perfect timing because I mean, Salem is already getting very busy.
Yeah,
It
so we
is
know a
already
lot
very.
of people are.
We're sold out for the weekend. We have openings starting Monday. But yeah, it does book up. So
I put the
definitely.
link in the description of this. I also put the information for HausWitch and for Kalyn as well.
Yay! Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone,
Thank you,
on the
everyone.
live stream.
We'll do
This
one
was
last
awesome.
little. Here
Yeah,
are
little
our
peek
photos.
there. They're
All
so
very
pretty.
different. Yeah.
And all equally
Love you
beautiful.
all. Bye.
Bye. Yay.